Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Ben Slinger, and with me as always is Trevor Scott.
Yes, I am.
And yet again, we're going to go counter to our intro, actually.
Yeah, and not design anything and just review it.
Yeah, we're not going to design anything. We're going to go with some game reviews. You know, Trevor and I somehow managed to find the time to prepare for these sort of episodes and play a bunch of games. Mm-hmm. And they're usually games that, we try to find some that are a bit more obscure that you might not have heard of.
Yep. I scoured the deep dark web for some of the ones tonight. I did some Steam dumpster diving. And
there's a lot in the Steam dumpster. A lot of steaming dumps of games. But we pick out the cream of the steaming dump pile.
We to tell the truth, we just choose whatever we can.
Yeah.
And whatever we can afford, because something looks good.
Yeah, we try to get it cheap because we both want to play it so that we can, discuss it properly.
And usually if it's a multiplayer game, we want to play it together. Yeah.
Anyway, enough preamble babbling crap. Let's talk some games. Trevor, do you have a game that you want to start us off with? Which
Search for the plumber in my pocket.
Yes, the unwieldy named Search for a plumber in my pocket.
So I was expecting a game very much like Magic Pockets, the old Genesis game from back in the 90s, Bitmap Brothers, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
But no, this was like a really wacky adventure where you sort of travelled into a pocket and it became like a big large world, and it was sort of like pockets in
pockets in pockets in pockets.
Yeah, dimensional pockets, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You were chasing after a plumber.
But they were actually in pockets of shirts and pants and stuff.
Yeah. That was the entry, and then it was a whole other dimension in there.
But yeah, I liked this. It was this dimension hopping adventure was just, I felt fairly unique. They did a really good job of differentiating each dimension, and not just visually, but sort of the physics would be vaguely different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could really tell that they took a lot of... they wanted to do a bit of an homage to the Mario games and all that sort of stuff by having the plumber that you're searching for, and it was
I mean, you kind of
get to the end of the level and it's like your plumber must be in another dimension, and
Yeah, they did lean into that, and you kind of can't have a plumber in a game, obviously, without having the ghost of Mario come up and tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, what about me? It's a me. What about a me?"
Yes.
Mario. That's a terrible
one of the
accent.
One of the good things was they didn't have that horrible Italian accent for the plumber.
No,
it was just a
kind of bogany.
Guy named Greg.
Yeah,
he's cool.
Yeah, it was interesting because it started off in this mundane way, and you didn't actually the fact that it kind of started off as this mystery, like his wife comes to you and she's. Her husband, Greg the plumber, has gone missing.
Yeah. After, his last job was at your place, and you realise that he must have gone and touched your dressing gown, which you specifically told him not to do, and he got
he didn't know you were a dimensional wizard, but he still shouldn't have touched the things you told him not to touch. But so anyway, you sort of sigh and realise that yet again someone's been trapped in your
dimensional pockets,
dimensional maze, and go in after him.
You go in after him, and that's when you realise that things are not right in Pocket World.
Yeah, well, I liked that because there were vibes of that Rick and Morty episode with the batteries.
With the battery, yep.
Where time was passing differently in some of these dimensions, and that they were that each of them were their own complete unique worlds with your character as essentially the god that created them.
Yeah.
coming down now and then to check on things, and like things have gone badly, and you realise quite quickly it's because of Greg.
Yes. And, as you're going through these pockets and you're going deeper and deeper and deeper, and, it kind of like Inception, which, that battery episode was based off of, there is that moment where, everything's sort of happening in all the different pockets going all the way down, and you kind of get kicked back into each one going back up the list.
That was just a cool mechanic, and they got the timing of that really well. I liked that you could sort of, because him as the wizard, to travel through the dimensions, he actually just put the dressing gown on, and then there was sort of this almost weird recursive thing where he put his hand into the pocket and then kind of turn inside, there's this cool effect where he sort of turn inside out almost and go into the dimension, and then he's there, but he's somehow still got the dressing gown on, which let him then, go deeper as necessary once he was sort of had solved enough of the mystery in that realm. But I liked that you could kind of at any point jump back a level just to see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so you did see, and it's going in the slower motion. So you sort of you were able to flip between at that moment where everything kind of came to a climax, and see the different levels, all colliding.
Oh yeah, that multi-dimensional boss fight was just amazing. Like, they're jumping dimensions, you're jumping dimensions. Like, at one stage he jumped out, one step further than what you did, and so he's actually going slower than what you are, so you're able to reposition yourself to expand inside his nose and blow out that section of his face.
Well, as the essentially the finishing moves against him, you had to do, that was kind of attacking the weak points. It was the analog there of breaking into the one dimension and then being able to move and come out. You had the indicator of that point where you could sort of see the overlay of the outer dimension, and you could time it exactly right. Look, I'm amazed that they got such a complex mechanic to work that well. But, they did.
Yeah, they really did. 8.3.
Yeah, look, I don't think I'd go quite that high. I know I haven't particularly said anything bad about it. To me, some of the interface stuff, I think that overlay thing worked well. That was sort of the best of the UI. I found a lot of the other UI a little bit, particularly once you got too deep, into the dimensions, and you had sort of stats up there for the whole stack.
They started overlaying each other on each other.
It got really confusing. Yeah, I can tell what they were going for. But anyway, like a 7.63 too.
Yeah. Oh, you've just gone that extra little bit of specificity. Maybe you've gone down a level and you've found that extra. Well, mark. I went into a dimensional pocket, so I had a lot of time there before this episode to really figure it out. Cool. Well,
the game I wanted to bring up was Cloud Impact.
Oh, well, that's not what I thought you were going to bring up next.
No, well, I wanted to get this one out of the way.
And we all know why.
Look, the aesthetic was cool. I could see what they were going for. They were sort of trying to do a very low poly-ish, whimsical kind of game where you've got these cloud vehicles, and you're flying, above the cities and stuff. But the controls were horrible for one.
I also struggled to know when a cloud was solid and when it wasn't. They seemed very inconsistent.
Clear. Yeah, because they had the different sort of types of clouds, like a rain cloud. The more rain that it had in it, the more solid it was. And I did like the way that when you would hit two rain clouds together, you'd get this nice big splash of rain.
And the thunderclap and the lightning.
Yeah, if there was enough. Yeah, exactly. The darker the cloud, the more kind of intense impact you would have.
I just found it weird that most of the wheels were white clouds, like that you could have on these things.
Well, why did they even need wheel? Like, they're clouds and they're floating.
Yeah.
Like, it seems so weird that they made them look so much like.
But
it was
the
almost like they
suspension-
put a cloud texture on
on
another
a car.
model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just inconsistent because the white wheels were the ones that actually, touched the ground, and the black wheels that you're thinking, okay, these are the solid ones. They were the ones that allowed you to hover. Like, it just
Because I guess they were black because they had so much, like, there were such thunderous clouds or something. I don't know. Yeah, it was very inconsistent. I found that, you never quite knew if you were actually going to hit somebody because you were sort of flying in 3D space so much at the time.
I phased
you'd end up
right
underneath them
through
or
someone.
phase through them if you, like, I felt like they were almost going for a joust vibe where, as long as you had a darker rain cloud, you would win that impact. But it was too subtle, it didn't really work.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose I've got to say it. Every single track was just clouds, like.
Well, yeah,
and it looked like, oh great, it's this one turns to the left a bit and then goes to the right, like, rather than the last one, which was just round to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right, to the left, to the right.
Well, it was funny because I feel like they developed the cities underneath the clouds more than the tracks themselves. Like, you were just sort of floating above these cities with guides to tell you which way to go, which were not always very, very well directed as well. You'd find yourself off the track.
Yeah, especially with those cloud arrows that just sort of,
Well, and when everything's a cloud, you're like, is that another vehicle? Is that an arrow? Is that, but the main differentiation of the levels seemed to be the city you were above. Like, I can't believe they put that much work into those different style of cities where you could barely see it. Like, you had to move the camera to a point where you weren't really looking at where you were going to even see this nice city they built. So, yeah, it was.
Oh, which levels always bugged me the most? The fog levels. Like, I don't know what.
It's
like
what they were thinking there.
Okay, sure. In that one fog level where the jetliner came right through the cloud, just as you're going through the jump, about to go for the jump, and the big jet goes right above you. That was cool.
I would have liked to have seen more of those sort of events. Like, get some
birds.
I don't know, albatross flying through.
I don't know. Have a baby being delivered or something like that,
stork going past with a baby. Have some tall buildings that would actually get in your way. Like, even in the tall cities, your clouds were so high above, like the skyscrapers didn't reach them. It was just set dressing. So, I don't like to be too critical of game. Devs work hard on these things, but this one felt like it wasn't thought through very well. So
it felt like they're like, what other cloud things do we know of? Angels. Let's chuck an angel thing in there. Like pearly gates. Yeah, let's chuck some pearly gates in.
I mean, that at least had some stuff in that level that was up, like some set dressing that was there, but it was still mostly clouds.
Beanstalks.
Get some beanstalks. Like,
I mean, that's straight off the top of my head. You could have had a beanstalk. You could have had a Land of the Giants, but no. You had fluffy white clouds, and you had
floating
halos
above random cities. Yeah. Anyway, 3.72.
Damn it. 3.71.
You had to go a little bit lower.
Yeah, mine was originally 3.72, and I couldn't give it anymore.
That seems to happen a lot to us. Yeah,
really does. We're so on, like.
I mean,
we're so connected.
We generally think.
I mean, you know how I love my space, as in
MySpace, like the old social
Space Adventures. And no. Although, Tom is still a friend.
It's everyone's friend.
Deep Space Croquet Explorer. Like, bringing the idea of searching through space and having to knock planets through these hoops and score.
This was kind of neat little...
Score goals, basically.
Almost a casual kind of thing.
Yeah.
I liked that it was couch co-op, couch competitive. Was nice. and that you were these. They didn't really explain what your characters were. You were just sort of these disembodied, mallets.
Yeah. But
the theming of it was nice.
It was nice because it was, three-dimensional, zero-gravity croquet, having to knock those planets into those black holes, having to, work out where the ring is in this particular, where the hoop is. And most of the time it was like, oh, look, there's a Saturn-like planet, knock the ring off it, and, you got to then carve it in half.
Yeah, I did like that they kind of had the hidden rings where you could get, more points if you managed to get it through them all in that level.
The level with the binary star, that was so cool, where the star themselves created the hoop, and you knocked the third star through the middle, and it turned into a trinary system. It was beautiful.
Unlike the previous game, Cloud Impact, where they took an idea like clouds and kind of struggled to actually make that interesting. In this case, they took the idea of balls of planets and stars.
Yeah.
And just ran with it and just made some really intriguing levels with varying mechanics, like you said, binary systems and black holes, and the fact that the gravity would affect, obviously affect the systems, the bodies that you are hitting around. Just, made every level kind of really interesting.
Yeah, and, I mean, I've got to say, they make croquet cool. Like, I
didn't even know how to play it.
I didn't give two shits about croquet beforehand. And
the general rules.
Yeah. Basically, you've got hoops, you got a stick, you got a mallet, and planet balls, and you're trying to hit the balls through the hoops and make it to the stick in as little shots as possible.
Yeah.
And it's a galaxy-spanning thing, and the good thing is they can just make new skins for the planets. They can, play around.
I love the way
bit.
there was almost an ongoing thing as you'd go through each level, where as you hit the planet, you'd see like little flurries of rockets, rescue rockets, fly off it and fly off
as long as the planet was inhabited, yes,
was inhabited,
and had the technology good enough to actually do that.
Yeah, but I liked how the technology kind of increased as you went, because this was obviously happening over huge time spans, and they sort of implied that the people who launched from those early planets ended up on the later planets, and then like you're coming through again. You're essentially this villainous force running through the galaxy of these creatures, but they didn't focus on it too much. Like, there weren't cutscenes, there weren't anything like that. It was really just set dressing in that way. Like, it was just an added little nice thing, but I really appreciated those sort of little touches.
Did you get the achievement for when you hit the planet really, really, really hard into the stick and it split in half?
I think so. What was it? I don't remember what it was called, though.
It happened very early on. It was like Splitsville or something like that, and
right,
it was just I thought it was a good little thing that you could have little secret achievements all dotted throughout. And
look, the gameplay is relatively straightforward and simple, but they like any good game and an arcadey game like this, they mixed it up enough, strayed from obviously traditional croquet in the right ways.
Yes.
I mean, obviously just making it 3D in the first place, but, then adding in the additional rings, the gravity effects, the achievements and stuff. Like, there was enough there to really make you want to keep playing.
I didn't quite get the reference to the commentators. Like, I didn't get who they were. Maybe they're professional croquet commentators or something like that. I know, it just seemed...
I mean, it probably wouldn't be too hard to break into that, like to get some of the top-notch talent from the croquet scene, because in video games, it's kind of an untapped market when it comes to video games. Yeah. I don't know, maybe this will lead to more croquet games.
Yeah.
More traditional ones, more whimsical ones, who knows?
I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Yeah, I liked it too. 7.4, I guess. Since it's illegal for us to give the same rating.
That's the established law of this show.
Yeah, we don't want to get the cops involved. All right. I really wanted to talk about Rescue of Heroes. This, I really liked the way they turned some of the superhero tropes on their heads, where they were the ones who had been captured, and you got to play, essentially like the sidekicks and the lower tier heroes teaming up to go and save the big heroes. And, they obviously didn't use any of this isn't licensed, so they didn't use any of the real names, but there was some direct kind of analogs there. There was Harvey Buffman, who was the Superman analog, basically invincible, top speed,
Matt Ban, that was Batman, obviously, but
yeah, that one was a bit lazy.
Mattbann, like
I was amused that they decided to stay away from, like, the superheroes don't have secret identities. They just got they've just got first names and last names.
They really do.
And, they played with them a little, but I don't know, I like that little touch. It separated it from the Marvel and DC worlds.
Yeah. I mean, David Speedman, he was really cool. He was the stretchy guy, not the Flash like you expect.
Yeah, I do like that. Again, they played with that a little, because, like, why would everyone have the surname that just happened to match their power? They went more realistic with it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Flash guy was what was it? Dom something.
Dom Toretto, that's right, yeah.
Which was a bit weird that they went that way, but I mean, it might have been. I don't think because this wasn't.
It was felt differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
he was. I mean, it was a little bit on the nose because he was fast and he was pretty furious.
He was pretty furious, yeah. But,
because they kind of merged the Flash and the Hulk in that character, actually, because he went really fast, but then the faster he got, the angrier he got.
Yeah.
Because he didn't like all the bugs getting in his mouth.
Yeah.
But, of course, these were the characters who you had to save. Like, you mostly didn't see them. For the most part, you had these really great, sort of third-person shooter beat-em-up style levels where you're playing these sidekicks. Mm-hmm. And, they mixed those up a bit too, obviously. And they did have powers, but they were less of the useful powers, I guess, which presumably was why they were sidekicks.
Yeah.
So, you had the guy who... What was the guy who could just, like, make it muddy on the ground? Like, fire mud?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Stephen Puddles. That was another guy. It was Stephen Lima. Stephen Lima could leave the muddy puddles, and Stephen Puddles, spelt differently by the way, because one was the PH and one was a VEN.
Yeah. They didn't go too obvious. He was the one who could, like, talk to that very specific breed of hummingbird,
yes,
right?
Yes. It was actually,
I mean, that was a cool level.
That was a really cool level. That hummingbird didn't shut up, though, and he did a lot of Hamilton lyrics. Like, they must have been, listening to a lot of Hamilton, and the hummingbird just seemed to be the perfect level for that.
Yeah, there was that great little parody of when it wants to be in the bloom where it happens. Mm-hmm. Like, they did do some fun stuff with that.
And he definitely didn't want to throw away his shot. Yeah.
Yeah, his shot being, like, aiming at the flower and getting his nose in there and getting the nectar out.
He just didn't want to throw that away. Like,
yeah.
It was weird that he was kind of anthropomorphized and had arms with a slingshot and kind of Dennis the Menace-like. But anyway.
I mean, that was just that very specific breed that Stephen Puddles could talk to.
Exactly.
And that's, I mean, you didn't see many of them. There were other hummingbirds around, just regular ones. But they weren't the breed. He couldn't talk to them.
I didn't actually finish it. Was the ending
No.
good?
Yeah, it was actually. Because obviously by that point you've saved a bunch of heroes as the different sidekicks.
Yeah.
But they kind of bring it together at the end, and they actually have a level where you can then you're sort of tag teaming in and out the sidekicks to then defeat the final big boss.
Okay. Who was the big boss in the game?
Well, it sort of foreshadowed it the whole time.
Yeah, because it looked like it was going to be the clown, but I kind of thought they're not going to do that. That's too
No, you
similar
take
to
out
the
the
Joker.
clown in the Matt Ban level, and it did seem like they'd bring him back, and he does play a role in the final level. Mm-hmm. But no, the final villain ended up being Rex Reynolds.
I thought he was one of the sidekicks.
No. They revealed that he's actually like a billionaire, oligarch.
Cool.
Disguised as a sidekick, and he's been manipulating the whole thing.
Oh, that does actually sound cool. I need to go back and play that.
Yeah, you should. It was a good ending.
Yeah, from what I played, I really enjoyed it. 6.9, 3, 5, 1. Yep.
That seems low to me. I thought it was really. I'm going to give it a 8.7. 3.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really deserved that 3.
It earned that extra point. 0.03.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring up a new segment.
Okay.
So licensed retro is one of the best things that sort of happened back in the 90s. There was a lot of licensed video games, and there was some that sometimes slid under the radar. One such thing that was just released on Steam was Mary-Kate and Ashley's Acid Warfare.
Yeah.
So this is Mary-Kate and Ashley from Full House, but it's around the time that they did their couple of movies and all this sort of
movies
stuff.
and stuff.
So it was really part of their branding.
So this is like, did they remaster it or something? Or
No. It's just it's literally
they've just done a straight sort of release.
It feels like they've just literally grabbed the Super NES or Genesis ROM
cartridge,
and,
the ROM,
and put it into like a
launcher.
A launcher.
Okay.
But I mean, you know what it's about, don't you?
Look, I remember from back in the day. I think I've got a Hyper magazine with it on the cover. Because, there was a lot of talk about it, and, obviously there's a bit of incongruity. It's not quite what you would expect.
No.
To have, the stars of Full House and those movies in, this essentially Street Fighter style fighting game.
Yeah.
With weapons and throwable acid, that's where the acid stuff comes in, is that you can pick up the big barrels and throw them around, and it was very weird for the time. But I haven't played it recently. You've surprised me with this one, so you'll have to.
Yes. So one of the things that I really liked is the intro cinematic. Really, really well done, digitized voice.
Yeah.
They, rather than animating the whole thing, they kind of just animated little parts of the face. But it actually starts off very much like a Batman sort of thing, where there's a court case going on, and Mary-Kate's up on the in the witness box,
the stand,
and Kate rushes in, grabs a vial of acid and throws it.
Kate does. You mean Ashley does?
Yeah, sorry. Ashley does, because Mary-Kate. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Mary Ash and Kate Lee Olsen.
Yes. And Mary Ash and Kate Lee Olsen. So yes, Ashley runs in and throws a vial of acid at Mary-Kate. And this is where the whole warfare starts. The judge gets involved, and basically, the tutorial level is just Mary-Kate and Ashley, duking it out, throwing acid at each other. And you've got sort of like the judge cowering in the background, and, you can do some of those early environmental effects where you can throw acid towards the judge, and
You get sort of a little animation there. Yeah, I do recall some, like, because they also had, which was unusual for what was otherwise sort of a more Street Fighter-y vibe, but they had some of the other, like, you'd have other characters come in, like the bailiff and stuff, who would just sort of attack whoever that was closest to you, as almost a little bit of a random moment, and you just had to deal with that. You could, they didn't have much health. You could take them down pretty quickly, but you had to be careful not to leave yourself open to an attack from your sister.
Definitely not.
At least in that first level.
Yeah. And later on, you do get some callbacks to Mary-Kate's, Mary-Kate and Ashley's, time on Full House and all this
Bob
sort of
Saget,
stuff. Yeah.
Like, cameo, wasn't there?
Which,
like his likeness.
God bless his soul, he's...
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. But, yeah, he really fucked him up. Like, he dumped that barrel of acid on, Mary-Kate and Ashley's mum in that level. Like...
Yeah, well, there was a lot of... There's a lot of acid, and
really
it didn't seem to
was.
actually do much most of the time. Like, it was...
Except in cutscenes. In cutscenes, it was the most powerful thing.
Yeah, I mean, in that initial cutscene, it, like, burns, she gets a big scar on her face that's there pretty permanently then. But...
The weird thing is, it always seemed to switch to the other side. Like, it was always on the side away from the camera. So if you were, you flipped.
Well, because it was sprite based, so like
they just used the same sprite for.
Yeah, they had to flip it because otherwise they would have had to basically double
the work,
all the animation.
Although it was weird that they didn't just use the same sprite for both Mary-Kate and Ashley. They specifically drew a Mary-Kate and they specifically drew an Ashley.
I suspect that was it would have maybe felt a little bit lazy. Yeah. To do that.
Yeah. So instead, they used...
For when they're the leads,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was there a Lindsay Lohan sort of lookalike in there as well that they bring in?
Oh, they could have been... I didn't finish it this time round. I finished it back in, when it first came out. But I've just been playing it a bit, and you know what? It's cool. Acid was cool back in the 90s. Yeah, acid wash jeans. That was one of the powers that you could get.
Well, and that did tend to be the go-to. Like the Joker falls in acid. Well, I guess it's sort of acid. It looks sort of like acid. It's like a chemical mixture in the original Batman. Two-Face in the later one is acid, isn't it? I don't know. There's
always a lot of acid in those.
It was a go-to thing in the 90s.
Yeah. Oh, I really enjoyed it. You obviously don't have to give it a rating.
Yeah, I haven't played it recently, so I'm just going off memories. But
I'll give it a 5.9. It was fun.
Okay, middling, nostalgic. I imagine. I'll have to dig up that Hypermag and find that article on it because
please do. And maybe we can actually have that out on Twitter or something like that.
If I can find it, I'll scan it and I'll take a photo and we'll get it up there. All right, but back to games that we've both played. Everybody loves the Blood Munchers.
Of course they do. Everyone loves them.
Yeah, well, in this game, everyone loves them, and that's hence the name.
They munch blood, and what isn't to love?
Well, and I was amused at how they made what is essentially vampires.
Yeah, vampires, but
endearing in this game. Yes. They really turn some of those vampire tropes on their head, and drop you into this world where vampires are they're known, everyone. They're not quite worshipped, but they're respected.
Yes. I did find it weird that they decided to do away with the whole creatures of the night and made them just...
No, they're just... Yeah, well, that's
daywalkers,
and I think
nightwalkers, whatever they want.
I think they were very specifically trying to stay away from a lot of the traditional vampire stuff. Really the only thing is that they are a species that survives on human blood.
Yes.
For sustenance.
But the weird thing is, it's usually
they're in society.
It's usually like the offcuts. Like they don't need the fresh stuff from the blood bank or anything like that. They sort of go to hospitals, and it's like the blood that patients were losing that they had to replace with the transfused blood. That's the blood that they'd sort of just get a bucket and then.
Well, I think this is, and so for those who haven't played it, to go a little bit into sort of what sort of game this is, it was almost, it had a very cutesy art style. Actually, it felt not quite Animal Crossing ish, but it was a little
bit anime.
A little bit anime in that way. And it sort of starts with it being just sort of you're dropped in this town, like you've come into this town as a visitor, and so you get to sort of just explore. You find different shops, you find people in the town, you get to know them a little bit, including blood munchers.
Yeah,
because they're part of society. There's a blood muncher who
runs the general store.
The general store, exactly. That's one of the first ones you meet.
Mrs. McGillicuddy, she was my favourite.
Yeah, and they really made them good characters, and I liked the way they explored, because one of the reasons they are so respected is because they use their bloodthirstiness to help the town. Like, they do use it to, like you said, take the unneeded blood from someone who is diseased, because they have the ability to, like, it doesn't affect them.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's no rat problem in town, because essentially that's like junk food for them.
Yeah. Little snack, bite off the head of a rat. Yeah.
There was some interesting kind of interplay there, where they sort of hinted towards that that it's very intimate to give a blood muncher fresh blood, like let them, and I mean it's in the vampire thing too, but in a much more wholesome way. Like, yeah, they sort of mentioned that like married couples.
I mean, going back to Mrs. McGillicuddy, just the relationship between her and her non-blood muncher husband, like, yes. They were the most cute couple, and you could tell that they loved each other, and you kind of didn't want to know what they got up to in their freaky times.
No, but they were very open about it, and they kind of did that as a bit of a running joke. But no, I liked the way that they stayed away from a lot of those vampiric tropes and made it this very wholesome thing.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird when, I think it was the 5th or 6th time that you went into the general store. You just saw Mrs. McGillicuddy with a straw, just out of Mr. McGillicuddy's neck, and she did the whole conversation with the straw in her hand with like little blood drips dripping from it. It was now I think about it, was like,
they played
pretty
with it,
cute. It was pretty cutesy.
I like that they played with it.
And she wasn't ashamed. It was like,
because again, this is part of the normal society of this world. And then obviously you start getting a bit deeper into some of the actual main story, like main quest line.
Yeah.
And, that, again, I like that wasn't specifically based around the blood munch, like the fact that blood munchers are part of this world. It was just, they happen to be part of this world.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a thing that's happening in this world.
Yeah.
And so the quest was around, like, the big company coming in and sort of gentrifying and shutting down a lot of the smaller businesses, like Mr. McGillicuddy's general store.
Can't believe those assholes.
Very Stardew Valley in that way. But
don't worry, dear listeners. She gets her comeuppance. Like,
yeah, they do wrap that up pretty well.
Yeah, the secret cult stuff that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that was an interesting way for them to play with some of those vampire tropes, where there was this weird, creepy cult that did sort of worship the blood munchers in that way.
They painted
and had all these like
red.
wacky ideas.
They painted the town red.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, not blood, just actually like paint.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird. It was like one day a red door popped up, and then like red windows around that, and it just started building.
The slow burn for that quest line,
yeah.
Though, and that you go in and you bring Mrs. McGillicuddy. Like once you've found where they're meeting and the time that they meet, you bring her in and you basically, have to convince them that they're just regular people.
Yeah.
Because, they had all these... Well, I liked, again, what I was saying is that they played on those tropes, that all the creepy, weird ideas they had about the Blood Munchers were all of the, like, regular vampire tropes. Like, they thought, they don't like garlic or crosses or whatever. And it's like, no, like... The only way they're different is that they use blood to sustain them. Like, otherwise they're completely normal.
And, they don't just bite into people's necks. They use straws.
No. Well, and only consensually.
Yeah.
Like, that particularly taboo. Not just taboo, like criminal.
Yeah.
To take someone's blood without their consent. Yeah. Amongst the Blood Munchers.
I really, really enjoyed it. I thought... it was absolutely fantastic. The cutesy graphics, the fact that they made it, fully 3D, that you could go around the whole town and,
Yeah, I thought it was great.
I'll give it...
8.9.
Ooh. 8.91. It deserved that extra.
It's only because you
0.1.
had a super crush on Mrs. McGillicuddy that you gave her that extra point.
Oh, yeah. Unstoppable Pachinko Oppression. Bit of a weird one. Bit of an out there.
I was going to say out there, definitely. I was impressed how much narrative they managed to get in there through just Pachinko gameplay.
Yeah, well, every single character was literally a peg in this Pachinko. In this Pachinko game, and the oppression was bills. It was all the things that came crushing down on top of them, and that's really what the ball was like. Just to have
the weight of
the world
society
on their shoulders. Yeah, weight of society. And like the weird thing is, it was a roguelike that it doesn't stop. Like, there's no bosses, no nothing. It's just...
Yeah, one thing I liked... So, it was almost an art piece in that way.
Yeah.
Because each peg, you could, like, mouse over them and you got a little bio about that person.
Yeah.
You got their occupation, you got, what they're concerned about. And that would change based on which balls hit them on the way down, which, of course, in a Pachinko machine is generally quite randomized. And so you were essentially seeing these people's... You could, if you paid attention, you could just play it as a regular Pachinko machine. But if you notice that the depression ball that comes down has a particular little back and forth between, 3 pegs down in this corner before it moves on, then when you click on them later, you see that, like, their life has changed. Like, that depression has affected them.
Yes.
And made their life more difficult.
As it always does. Like... That tax ball caused me some irrits in Chapter 2. Like... Because each roguelike thing was sort of broken up into chapters. And the weird thing is, it wasn't something that ended, so... it just... Every single time that... I think it was, like, around Chapter 5 or so, that... Things would just randomly choose which ball would come down and, who it would hit, and...
Yeah, it was always random who it would hit, obviously. You could select where it dropped. You could have an influence. And in some levels, they did let you, have some influence on what ball it was as well that came in at any point. But, I think they got the message across that they were trying to, which was that it doesn't. That it is this, never ending, that it's never ending, that these things keep coming and keep hitting not just you, but everyone around you, right?
Did I tell you I unlocked that last achievement? I worked out what it is.
Yeah, the secret one.
Yeah, the secret one is don't play it for like a week. And that's actually the secret. The next time you start it up, it says...
To just not participate in society.
And to not participate in it is the only way to win in this game. And it's kind of meta.
That's interesting, because I have mixed feelings about that, given that...
You enjoy the gameplay loop of dropping a ball.
No. Given that from the perspective of life, none of us have the opportunity not to participate as such. But
in this game, you control the balls. You don't control the pegs. So you're the one who's throwing depression at these people. You're the one who's throwing taxes at all these people. You're the one that's making their life
I guess
hell.
If you think of it from that point, that you are dropping the balls.
If you don't play, they have a better life.
Yeah.
It's the only way to win. But saying that, I've been watching a hell of a lot on like the dark YouTube, and that's where I've been getting my fix. So
the people in those videos, the pegs in those videos suffered just as much as if you'd played it yourself, Trevor. I'm not sure that
as far as I'm concerned,
absolves you.
As far as I'm concerned, they were playing it anyway. I'm just partaking in like.
Yeah,
I'm not adding to any pain. I'm on the sidelines.
Yeah, well, I bet that's the same thing you think about recycling. Well, no one else is doing it, so what? Oh, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, what do you reckon? I find it really hard to score, actually, because
I
don't even know.
I love it and hate it at the same time, which is why it gets. One thumb up, one thumb down. Like
I said, it's almost an art piece.
Yeah.
It just gets a from me.
That's a very good one. That's a good...
All right, moving on to one that's definitely not an art piece. Orbital Mummy Patrol. So, we're talking like mothers, not
not mystical creatures.
Not wrapped in bandages.
No. Although there was that bandage level, but that was first aid. Like,
yeah,
that was just fixing scraped knees. As part of the Orbital Mummy Patrol. Like,
exactly. This is the thing. So this is essentially again, another kind of arcadey game where I guess this is almost the next step from being a helicopter parent is being
an orbital
parent,
like a
space station, because you're essentially like you have your kid or kids in various places across the world, and you're like moving your massive telescope that can zoom right into where they are to like drop help when they need it.
Yep.
But you have to balance your time between your different kids
and look, I really quite enjoyed the XCOM like nature of it, where you really get to know these mummies and recruit some more as you went down. Like if you happen to drop off at a playground and save that kid from the bully, some of the other mums from around realised, oh, you came out of the sky, screeching down, saved this kid, and then they want to know what this is all about, so they kind of join.
That's a good way to
well.
recruit. Like, I like that you had a bit of strategy there on because where you placed your drop zone. You didn't want to embarrass your kid by having it too close to their friends.
No,
but you did want the other parents to see it, because that was how you recruited, because you got them interested. So yes, I felt there was some really cool strategy there.
I've got to say, you got to be very, very careful with where you do put the drop zone, because at one stage I just didn't care that I was putting it down like right in the middle of the playground.
Yeah,
but it hit like a nuclear blast. It blew some of those kids to smithereens. Like that was kind of scary. Not any of mine, but the bully flattened.
Yeah,
that was.
Yeah, well, I like that it was mostly cartoony. Like, you're not beating up kids or anything, obviously. No. It's much more intimidation kind of moves and, redirection. But I liked that in an XCOM style game, like having that different the different move set. It's not
Yeah.
just, duck behind cover and shoot from a distance. It's like, no, you like often have to get up in their face.
Yeah.
At the risk, again, of embarrassing your child versus doing more subtle things that might not have as,
Now,
quick an effect.
what I'd like for the DLC is them to not focus on, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be your kid. As far as I'm concerned, like, I'd like it that, these mummies are protectors for all children. But they really doubled down on the idea that each mummy that you have has a group of kids that they've got to look out for.
Yeah.
And I understand that, that's the way they decided to go. But for the DLC, I'd like them to open it so that you can maybe help those kids in the orphanage. I mean, they don't have mummies.
I could see that.
All they've got is nuns, and, oh, God, they were freaking horrible. They were the scary, evil, like, villains in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that they sort of hinted towards the Mummy Patrol taking on a larger role with that level and stuff.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they do a sequel that it's now it's a bit more of a
global mummy
initiative.
If children are in trouble.
GMI. But what I did like about it being your own kids was that, like the other mummies, you got to know the kids.
Yeah.
And especially the way that, again, in that procedural way, because it was mostly sort of randomly generated characters, at least, if your kids became friends with the other mummies you've recruited, you got bonuses and stuff. Like, I liked that they had those
synergies,
schoolyard dynamics in there that, yes, created synergies then. And so you had to be careful. It's like, if you do something that embarrasses your child in front of the child of another one of your mums, like, you've just lost an opportunity there to strengthen that friendship. Mm-hmm. And so, that balance between helping your child and not embarrassing them, I felt worked really well.
Yeah. I did like some of the, like, extra, like, bonus levels in which you could go help out, your older son, the 23-year-old who's a scuba diving instructor. You could help him out when he got stuck under the water, or just
I did like, because obviously you often think of a mummy, particularly if you put it like that, as of having younger children, and that was the main gameplay. But I did like that they sort of nodded towards in that way that, like, as your kids grow older, you have less opportunity to dive in and help them.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of on their own, but that there's still a need for the mummy, for your mummy to come in and save you in certain situations. And then they dramatized that. Was fun.
Commander Mummy, she was really like a hard ass. Like,
oh, yeah.
You could tell that, she'd seen some shit.
Well, and I liked those archetypes that they had.
Yeah. Because
there was the more, the Commander Mummy was obviously sort of the more strict, hard-line, hard-ass mum.
Yeah, with a heart of gold, as it turns out.
No, she wasn't, terrible. But then, you had more of the, like, hippie parent who just lets the kid do whatever, the hippie mum. And you had, the cool sort of rocker mum who is trying to be friends with their kid.
Yeah.
But their moves then just had much higher risk for embarrassment if they didn't go right. And the way that they played that into it was really cool.
And I did like the fact that they didn't, keep it fully gendered. Like, having Gerald on the team was just awesome. Yeah. He embodied a mum, and that's what he wanted to sort of be.
Well, just like, I liked how, in a similar way to the Daddy episode we did with our game design stuff a while ago, where we were trying not to gender things, like they kind of did do that a bit. Obviously it was still woman heavy.
Yes. Because
that is generally what you associate with it, but I like that they added that in, that they're trying to make it clear that
this was big mum energy in this one. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
The only thing that sort of brings it down for me is when they did do a few Egypt levels where they literally threatened to have bandaged mummies, but
that felt a little bit lazy. I mean, at least they kept it to just the bonus level where you were like helping out your archaeologist daughter.
Yeah, from the curse.
Yeah, and so I felt like they had a bit more leeway in these bonus levels to do a bit sillier stuff. But yeah,
that's why it brings it down to 7.85392. 0.5.
0.5. You got another point. You got another decimal.
You can add an extra decimal if you want. I didn't. It's
cool. Well, I will give it an 8.1. Flat.
Okay. Should we go for a quick?
Oh, we've got a little bit of time left. Let's do a quick lightning round.
Yep.
This is where we just talk about some of the games that each of us have been playing separately. Mm-hmm. We'll just sort of do a very quick rundown.
Yeah. Okay. Castle of Death Havoc. That was like a harken back to the old, first-person shooters. Felt like a spiritual successor to Castle Wolfenstein, but with less Nazis, which was such a relief. Like it felt fun, Good.
Yeah, I mean, most things do with less Nazis.
Yes, a good throwback to the classic, boomer shooters. That's what I think we used to call them.
Right. I've been playing Block Rain, REIGN, but there's a bit of a pun there because it is a Tetris-y style game with Tetronimos coming down from the top, but you're essentially building up your castle, and as you create certain blocks of color, they'll turn into like turrets and things, and weapons and things.
That's cool. I didn't get a chance to play that. I might have to.
It's cool. There is a multiplayer mode as well where you essentially like have splits one on each side and
tower defense and stuff. Yep. That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Enormous Mole Raider. So, in this, you play an enormous mole raider. So it's sort of like a play on the mole rat thing, except that you're really, really big. So you're sort of going in and sort of protecting and raiding other moles, basically.
Right.
It's
cool.
Yeah, kind of a bit of a strategy game. It's fun.
I tried out Internet Puzzle Mania, which was funny. I think this one was thrown together quickly with like the popularity of Wordle, because it's almost like, how there's like game dev story and stuff.
Yep,
it's sort of like that, but you're sitting there trying to come up with new internet puzzles that are going to like have the opportunity to go viral. So I don't know. It felt a bit of a rip off of those sorts of games, but it was interesting.
I played the point and click adventure Nasty Blade Disaster, where in the intro, the guy's just shaving and he cuts himself, but he's got leukemia, so he doesn't stop bleeding, and so it's all about trying to stem that bleeding and then finding out that he's actually really sick, and it's a lovely game about this guy who finds out that he's really sick, and I won't spoil what happens at the end, but it's a heartwarming tale.
That sounds really depressing.
It was good. It really was good.
And I think maybe our last one for tonight, Killing Matters, was another one. It was another one that sort of tried to have a message, I think, because it was a first-person shooter, and this one didn't succeed as well as the other game that we talked about that had a good message. Essentially, as you would kill the henchmen and stuff, you'd get a little as you're playing, you'd get a little picture-in-picture of their family, like receiving a letter or finding, at their funeral, or that like one of their kids is like now been orphaned or whatever. Like it was actually a little bit problematic. I felt like it was just very heavy-handed in what it was trying to do. But whatever, good on them for trying something new and trying to get a message across.
And I really did like that it was narrated by Jaleel White.
Yeah, that was a good get for them.
Yes.
Yeah. So, look, I think that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us for another one of our review episodes. We have been trying it a little bit differently, and hopefully you've been enjoying it. If you have been, let us know, because we'd love to know if you want us to continue down this route or, go back to our previous click pitch sort of stuff, and randomly generated game design. Because this is nothing like that, right? Where this is real games. It's very different.
We're not just improvising what each game is with a random name generator. Like
random name generator, that'd be weird.
Yeah, and it wouldn't make sense, especially if we did like meta commentary saying that we weren't doing that. That'd just be like awkward.
I mean, it would just be ridiculous, Trevor. Why would we even?
No,
I don't know why you even brought that up. So anyway, let us know which direction you are going in. Go to podchaser.com/bitstorm. Leave us a review. Let us know. Review this episode. You can review episodes on Podchaser. It's kind of neat.
It's kind of what it's there for. Like it's there for.
It's kind of what
reviews.
it's there for. Let us know.
What else is there for is that we've got an awesome song that plays at the start and end of each episode. It's called Mount Defiance. It's off of the album Containment Failure by the awesome band Dust that we happen to be associated with.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And I'm Mrs. McGillicuddy.